Hey, looks like we're live on Facebook already. Let me double check. Double check. Yeah, fantastic. So I'm just going to share the link in our group. Yeah. Can you hear me as well? Looks like we're live. Perfect. Okay, so going live on Instagram at the same time. Excuse my wet hair. Just got out of the shower. Live on Instagram, live on Facebook, and I'm super happy to be here. I'm going to be honest with you. This week, I struggled a little bit with deciding on the topic of this week, because every week we're receiving a lot of different questions. And a lot of your questions are about learning vocabulary, right? How do I use the right words, really? And I believe that you actually know a lot already. You have a lot of knowledge, and you might not always be aware of this, right? There's a lot of words that you do already know, but that you might not use in your yoga classes right now, because maybe you've never used them in that context. Maybe you're not sure about how to use them in context, or you don't think that they are appropriate and you want to find synonyms. So in the Teach Yoga and English course bundle, which you can still enroll in with the $95 discount until Sunday, so that's 4 days from today if you're watching this live, I teach you how to use what you know in a context that maybe you don't know, and how to find synonyms for that. But I want to also prepare you a little bit with this training. So I'm going to give you an introduction to this. And if you want to learn more about it, you can do that with the course bundle. Discount still applies until Sunday, the 9th of July. So 4 days from today. So sit down for a moment with me and think to yourself, are the following questions for you a yes, a no, or maybe sometimes? Yeah, question number 1. When you speak in English, do you, yes, no, or sometimes feel inauthentic and catch yourself using words that other people use, but maybe you feel like they don't necessarily express you. They don't make you feel yourself. Is that you? Just going to, amazing. Thank you for letting me know, Alexa. I'm just going to switch there we go. Yeah, alrighty. So we're back. So when you speak in English, do you yes, no, or sometimes feel inauthentic? Question number 1. Number 2, when you speak in English, do you yes, no, or sometimes doubt your words actually make sense? Or maybe think that they are inaccurate or not really effective? Maybe that you use too many words. Yeah. Number 3, do you wish that you remembered other words, or that you knew other words to say exactly what you want to say? Is that you? Do you wish you remembered other words, or knew other words to say exactly what you want to say? And number 4, do you omit saying things? That means that you avoid speaking about certain things because you can't find the right words. Maybe you would like to explain a certain hip opener, for example, but you don't know how to use the words. Maybe it's the body part, maybe it's a verb, maybe it's a preposition. And because you don't know the words, you completely avoid speaking about it. And it may make you feel that your classes are incomplete. Is that you? Write in the chat, everyone, which of these questions, plural, applies to you. Number 1, 2, 3, or 4, or maybe all of them. Because I want to reassure and I want to remind you that speaking another language is a skill. And any skill you can learn and you can develop. And learning to teach yoga really doesn't have to be complicated. Yeah, many yoga teachers that we work with at Enga Unite, in the beginning, when they learn to teach yoga in English, they explain that they find it very hard to find the right words, because really, what is the right words? And with that, they mean words that help them express themselves the way that they truly want to, or vocabulary that helps them express their ideas, their cues, and instructions more clearly, or terms that are accurate and concise, like clear, effective, but also words that meet their students' needs. So some students have specific needs, desires, or a purpose with which they come to class. And for that student, you might need specific vocabulary. So that's what we mean with finding the right words. It's not always about using perfect English, but more using the words that are necessary to communicate with a specific purpose or an intention. Now, especially if until now you have learned English by yourself, and maybe you watch films in English, maybe you listen to a podcast in English, or maybe you have learned English in general classes, maybe taking general language classes or classes that help you prepare for exams. It makes sense that finding the right words when teaching yoga can feel really hard. Yeah, it feels like a challenge because you find it hard to express yourself. Why really is that? Why do you think that is? It's because I've got the answer for you. It's because the language that we use in yoga is very different from the language that we use and that we learn in English classes, or in general, or when we are studying or using general study materials that focus on any type of English in any type of context, in any type of situation. Those fields are different. That's great if you want to pass a language exam, or if you want to move to an English-speaking country. But if your goal is to teach yoga in English, you need different types of resources and different types of study materials. So, as an English language teacher and as a yoga teacher, I have very clearly identified that the words, the terms, expressions that we use for teaching yoga, you do not learn in a general language setting, general language learning setting, because the language that we use in yoga is specific, it's very niche, very targeted. And we need to remember that yoga is a journey full of self-discovery. And really, it's a journey where we learn to embrace ourselves, love ourselves. And once you do that to yourself, or have done that, have gone through that process for yourself, which I think is an endless journey as well. So it's a continuous thing that you practice. But as a teacher, this is what you help your students to do too, right? So it's not about learning how to order a coffee or how to ask your way to the train station, but how we can communicate with clarity and compassion, guiding your students through a yoga class, whether that's a meditation or a mindfulness practice, whether that is speaking about the yamas and niyamas, or whether that is going through an asana class. Yeah, so it's my purpose to help you sound and feel yourself teaching yoga in English. And that's why I've started that's why I've started Enga Unite, and that's what I've created all our resources for. So it's really to help you communicate with clarity and with compassion, to feel fluent and feel confident, speaking about all topics related to yoga and in the field of yoga. Yeah, one of the ways that you can do that is by having ample knowledge of vocabulary, to be prepared with synonyms, and also different ways of saying things to express yourself the way you truly want to. Yeah, that's really step number one. And for those that have seen the Teach Yoga and English course bundle, that is step number 1 of that journey. This is where I help you find your voice and focus on learning all the vocabulary that you will use in your job. Yeah, so that you don't have to waste time anymore or spend energy into things that you don't really need. Yeah, learning things that you don't really need, not for your objectives right now. So until the 9th of July, that's coming Sunday, if you're watching this live, we're offering the bundle with a $95 discount. That means that instead of $445, you can obtain the bundle for only $350. And I think that's really affordable because you get 4 courses to find your voice, learn all the vocabulary that you need, optimize your learning strategies as well, and much, much, much more. So go check that out. All right. The link is in my bio. And the link is also in the Facebook description of the video today. So check that out. It's step number 1. After the training, because I want to help you as well with 4 tricks to help you find your voice and use synonyms to feel less repetitive when teaching yoga and English, so that you know what to say on the spot without having to think or doubt yourself, and also feel you're communicating yourself very clearly, accessibly, inclusively, and all the things that you want, all living up to your standards. So the purpose of the training today is to help you find and use synonyms to no longer feel that you don't sound like yourself or feel inauthentic, to no longer doubt if you meet your students' needs, to also no longer omit saying things or explaining or speaking about things because you don't know how to express yourself and feel that your classes are incomplete, or stay quiet when you can't find the right words, and no longer feel stuck because there are words that you find difficult to remember or difficult to pronounce. All right. So there's a lot of different things that we can tackle by finding and using synonyms. So remember, speaking another language is a skill. Skills you can learn and develop and improve. And learning to teach yoga really doesn't have to be complicated. Learning to teach yoga, not, and learning to teach yoga in English, no. But it can be that until now, you haven't been given the right resources, or maybe you haven't received the right support. And if you thought that it was your fault, that maybe you're not smart enough or not intelligent enough, or that you're too old to learn, all of that is false. All of those are myths. All of those things are limiting beliefs that live inside your head. I can reassure you it's not your fault, and that it's really not because you're not smart enough. And in this training, I want to focus on empowering you to improve and to own your language development. So let's dive in. Let me help you find and use synonyms so that you can develop your communication skills, feel confident about expressing yourself without losing the essence of your personality. Yeah, how to find and use synonyms. If you have questions, anyone, write them in the comments and I can come back to them after we finish the training session. Just gonna double check if there's any comments here on Facebook. No. Also, let me know if you can still hear me all right. That's always helpful to hear. Alrighty, so actually there's 7 tricks that I want you to try out for yourself. And it's also a little bit of a process, because to find and use synonyms, first we need to identify which words and terms or expressions that you want to find synonyms for, right? We need to find first, or we need to define or identify or write down for ourselves first what the terms, phrases, and expressions are that you want to find synonyms for, or that you want to use differently. For example, if you want to cue warrior 2, right? We've got our back foot on a 45-degree angle, our front knee is bent, we look past our front middle finger or be on the front of the mat. There's a lot of different ways in which you can explain this and a lot of different cues that you can use. So to find synonyms or to ways to express yourself differently, first you need to know what exactly you say right now and how you would say it right now. And then identify or highlight for yourself which words you want to replace, or maybe it's a cue as a whole that you want to replace. Now, from the top of your head, this may be challenging to think of, oh, I want to say this differently, and that differently. So what I suggest to identify what you want to change or what you want to alter is that in your classes, when you're teaching one-to-one or maybe a group of people or yourself as well, practice teaching, take a notebook, and every time you can't remember a word or you don't know how to use the word or you take some time to think of the word, write it down so that you can research that word or the expression after. Because if you don't write it down, it is likely that you will forget. And that means that in the next class or the next time that you're teaching this cue or you're using this cue or you're teaching that asana, you will have the same problem again. Yeah, and then you postpone building your vocabulary. So from right now, from today, if you're teaching today or if you're teaching tomorrow, whenever it is, from today, whenever you teach, take a notebook and write down all the words and the phrases that you want to find synonyms for. It's one way to identify. To identify your words and phrases, you can also watch recordings of classes that you have taught already. Maybe you've got some classes on YouTube. Maybe you send recordings to your students. Maybe you have recorded yourself with a different purpose in the past. Listen back to your recordings and from there decide on the vocabulary, all the expressions that you want to optimize. Yeah, there's several ways, but first we need to identify. If you haven't got any teaching experience, or if you're not teaching at the moment, another thing that you can do to identify, which is number 2, is write or analyze your scripts. Write them down, write down all the cues that you want to use, write down all the words that you want to use, and highlight the words that you want to find synonyms for. So instead of taking note while you're teaching, this is a way of preparing your class, preparing your script, and by preparing your script, then highlight the words that you want to find synonyms for. So it's very similar to keeping notes that you want to replace during your class, right? Or when you watch your recordings. But this way you can analyze your scripts. And ask yourself, what are the words that come back very regularly? Or which words do you find you use too repetitively? And there's nothing wrong with repetition. There's really nothing wrong with repetition, but it can feel too repetitive for yourself. So repetition, as long as it's intentional, do it. Because there's a lot of different ways, purposes, intentions that we have for repeating things. But if it is because you don't know how else to say it and you would like to replace it, do write it down. Also, which words do not sound or which words do not feel authentic to you? These are words that you can replace, find synonyms for. And which cues of phrases and expressions do you really not like or do you think are ineffective? They're not clear or they're too long. They use too many words, right? That's another way and also look at it. So there's really 3 or 4 ways that you can analyze, identify, write it down. Yeah. So go through your scripts. Go through your recordings, take your journals or your notebooks to class and make a list of all the language points that you want to find synonyms for or express differently. Step number 1 and 2, or trick number 1 and 2. After that, you are ready to find and use synonyms. And I've got 5 ways for you to do this. And again, I see it a little bit as a process. It's a little bit of a process. So before you go into doing research, the very first thing that I want you to do is rephrase it in your own words. Because we can go on the internet, we can use a dictionary, and I will go there in a moment, but that doesn't really add a lot of authenticity. Yeah, so if you really want to develop your authenticity too, very first step after identifying, rephrase it in your own words. Because using your own words, they come from your own way of thinking. They come from your approach, from your style, from your way of expressing yourself. So that's a lot of authenticity already. And be patient with yourself in that process. Give yourself time to think of different words. Don't give up straight away if you can't think of it in the first 10 seconds. Try to describe it in many different ways. Think of words that mean the opposite, words that are similar, phrases that describe it more positively, funnier, more interesting, clearer, the way that you want to. It's your class, your voice, your style, your cue, your communication. Yeah. So before researching, first rephrase it in your own words. Then trick number 3, or trick number 4. Trick number 4 or step 4 in this process is using different resources. Now, it's normal that you actually don't have the knowledge to find different words, especially, as we said, if until now you have learned your learning has been focused on general English. Yeah, you may simply don't know the word yet, because you will learn it. Yeah, so you may think of words and try to translate them. That's another thing that I discourage you to do. Do not use direct translations. Yeah, I've got various training on direct translations as well. It's on the podcast and on our Instagram feed and on our Facebook feed. There's a lot of training about that direct translations. Do not do that either. Instead, if you want to learn more about direct translations, check out our resources. But instead of translations, use thesaurus. Thesaurus, there's one particular website, but there are several ones. Thesaurus are websites where you can find words and they give you a definition. They give you different types of context, synonyms, antonyms, and variations as well. So thesaurus are really, really great websites for you to find out how you can use synonyms in different types of context and even find synonyms of those synonyms. I really, really recommend that you look into that. You can also do a Google search and ask for synonyms of certain vocabulary or even expressions. And you will often see websites like Quora come up. And there is another one that I have forgot the name, Reddit or Reddit. Reddit and Quora often will come up of people having asked the same question and receive an answer on their forum. So have a look at that too, because these are things answered by real people that have knowledge about these things. It's a really, really great resource. Or use our yoga vocabulary builder. Yeah, the builder is part of the course bundle, and it's an interactive dictionary with lots of synonyms and example sentences in context and ways of practicing those words in context with flashcards and quizzes, tests, different games, different games for you to check out how to use these words in context, which is the next part of it. But after trying to rephrase it in your own words, look for specific resources like a thesaurus or a Google search, use Quora or Reddit, or use the Yoga Vocabulary Builder if you are enrolled in it And if you aren't enrolled in it yet, you can still do that, because all of these will give you ways of using that. First of all, they will give you synonyms, and then also explain how to use it in context, which is step 5. Yeah, because we want to check the context. Step 5, or trick number 5, is that you always want to check and affirm that your synonyms are used correctly in a particular context, because some synonyms have a slightly different meaning. Yeah, some synonyms have a different or a negative connotation, or a bad negative association. Yeah, associations and connotations I have spoken about in other training sessions too, so I will not go into a lot of depth of that, but it's really about how we perceive the word. Yeah, what kind of feelings or emotions or thoughts that brings up for a person. So check the context of how that synonym of the word is used. And usually Google search, thesaurus, and also our yoga vocabulary builder will give you examples, so you can see how it's used in a phrase, or how it's used in a cue, or how it's used in a general conversation. But we do want to know that, so we can be sure that it's used in the correct context, and also in a way that it's not negatively perceived by your students. And especially in yoga, I think that is really, really, really important. Yeah, that we make sure that everyone feels comfortable in your class. Then step number 6, or trick number 6, is to get exposure. Yeah, get exposure. And I've spoken about this many times, but honestly, it's so important that you surround yourself, you immerse yourself with English as much as possible. And not general English, English in the context of yoga, or in the context of wellness. Yeah, so to learn and find and use synonyms, you want to expose yourself as much as possible. And this means immersing yourself in the language of yoga. Yeah, immersing yourself means that you consume English in all ways, through listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So find resources that inspire you and that are relevant to your particular goals, and especially your goal of teaching yoga. If you teach yoga to kids, read yogic books about yoga written for kids. Yeah, it will give you a lot of vocabulary. If you teach yoga to young women in their menopause, maybe you can join a women's circle or a women's community on Facebook, for example, that speaks about the menopause, or where women have conversations about the menopause. Surround and immerse yourself with lots of resources and activities that match your teaching and your language learning objectives. Yeah, this way you get exposure to lots of different ways of expressing yourself, just lots of different expressions in general, words, terms, vocabulary, and all the things that you need for learning in context as well. Yeah, so step number 6, surround, immerse yourself, and get exposure. The last thing, last trick, and really it's something that I can't hammer on enough. This is really something you all need to do from today too, and it's speaking practice. In the last 2 lives, I was live to speak about how to overcome the fear of speaking and how to feel less nervous about teaching yoga. And I spoke about speaking practice as well, but again, to feel confident, to develop your voice, to find yourself and express yourself the way you really, really want to, you need to speak. You really need to speak. If you don't use it, you will lose it. And learning anything will help you gain lots of knowledge, right? But if you don't know how to use it, your knowledge isn't as worth as much. So get yourself out there, practice speaking with others, practice teaching others, practice speaking to yourself in front of a mirror, practice teaching yourself if you well, not if you want to, I would say you have to practice teaching yourself out loud, record it, and use these practices to check in with yourself. How does it feel to use this new synonym? How does it feel to use this word in a new context? How does it feel to use this expression when you're queuing? Does it make you feel more authentic? Are they clear enough? Or could it be better, different, improved? Could you say this more concise or more effectively? Honestly, every time you practice, you're giving yourself the opportunity to get a little closer to teaching and to your teaching objectives and your language learning objectives, your goals, really. So take this practice super seriously, reflect, optimize, because only that way you will find your voice, you will speak with accuracy and fluency, you will use synonyms, and you'll be able to use your synonyms and also explain yourself in different ways. And like I said already, express yourself the way you truly want to. Yeah, be authentic, without shame, without embarrassment, without fearing people judge you on your accent, because it will help you to develop this part of yourself and obviously your confidence too. So, to summarize, how to approach finding and using synonyms. Step number 1 and 2, we need to identify. So keep note of the words that you want to replace. Keep note of the words that you want to replace while you're teaching, for example. Analyze your script or write down a script and then analyze it. And watch and analyze your recordings of classes. Those are 3 ways, actually, three ways to identify the words that you want to replace and find synonyms for. Then how to replace them is, number 1, rephrase it in your own words first. That way you will develop your authenticity and confidence in expressing yourself. Then use thesaurus, Google search, or our yoga vocabulary builder. Find synonyms of the words that you're searching for, or the expressions. Yeah. Then check the context. Does this word or expression apply to the context that you want to use it in? Does this actually make sense? Is this accurate? Is it also inclusive? Does it not have any bad negative connotations or associations? Yeah. Then get exposure, surround yourself with activities, people, and resources where you get exposed to all the language really that you need for your job as a yoga teacher. And the last thing is practice, 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 practice. Because I repeat again, if you don't use it, you will lose it. And your knowledge is worth a lot, but a whole lot less if you don't know how to use it. So practice, practice, practice. Alrighty. Now, just to remind you that in the bundle, Teach Yoga and English course bundle, we have 4 courses to help you find your voice, to own your role as a body teacher, to embody your role, or to own your role as a yoga teacher, to learn and find all the vocabulary that you need for teaching yoga and really truly feel yourself teaching yoga asana, but also teaching meditation, mindfulness, pranayama, and even speaking about the business of yoga if you want to become self-employed as well. So go check it out. And like I said, until Sunday, the 9th of July, you can enroll in the bundle with $95 off, making the course only $350. And the course, there's 4 of them. So I think it's a really, really, really affordable way for you to get started, really build a strong, solid foundation of your language and communication skills for teaching yoga in English, and you can even apply everything that I teach there to teaching in any other foreign language, including your first language, because it's all about language and communication. Go check it out. I would absolutely love for you to join it. If you have questions, anyone, write them in the comments. I'm just going to check out our Facebook group because I do see things coming in there. Give me a moment. It's all in a different language. Right. I don't think that these comments reply to our training today. So if you have any questions, or if you have specific topics that you would like to learn more about, write to me so I can include them in our content calendar and speak about it in the live next week. Alrighty. Any questions, do write to me. I'm here to help you out. I'm here to help you find your voice and express yourself clearly and effectively with confidence and compassion. Okay, everybody, sending you lots of love. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I can't wait to see you all next week for our weekly live training. Same time, same place. And enjoy the bundle and join the bundle before Sunday, because that's the only way to get to claim your discount. Okay, everybody, sending you lots of love. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.